conversation. Well, this is where we are setting new standards for transparency and driving business change. But with that, let's go ahead and invite our speakers as we move forward to our next conversation. This particular session is in fact being moderated by Molshri Garg, India Managing Partner, ERM. And Molshri will be responsible in extracting relevant perspectives from her panelists. We've got again our set of leaders joining us back on stage. So first up, if I could please request Molshri to come on stage. You and I will invite your panelists. If I could please invite on stage Sanjay Singh, Director Strategy and External Relations, Jindal Steel and Power. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. May I further please invite Kimmo, Lähdevirta, Ambassador of Finland to India. May I also please invite, once again, Erik Solheim, President Europe Asia Center and former Executive Director of UN Environment, former Minister of Environment and International Development of Norway. And we'd like to once again invite Dr. Abdullah Belhaif Al-Nuaimi to also please join in for the panel discussion. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining us today. And I'm going to quickly hand over the stage and the proceedings to Molshri. Over to you.
So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My absolute pleasure to invite you all to a very exciting session where we are going to be looking at the sustainability perspective of global leaders. And I'm just blown away by the eminent panel here that I have the opportunity to pose some questions to, and hopefully we spend the next 20-25 minutes together to draw some insights that can be useful for everybody. I represent ERM. We are the world's largest pure-play sustainability consulting firm. We say sustainability is our business, but I also like to remind everybody that we've been working on sustainability-led initiatives from before the time sustainability became a buzzword. Just a few weeks ago, we were at the New York Climate Week, where we had the opportunity to meet another very interesting set of like-minded colleagues in the sustainability space, both across businesses, consulting, think tanks, governments. And a key theme that seems to emerge everywhere, and it's very heartening to see, is this role that everybody is speaking about. This is the time of change. And climate action is no longer something for the future. I know we all see it through the changes in temperature and rainfall, but also in terms of the impacts to businesses. And we at ERM strongly believe that the best way to look at sustainability is to integrate it in your strategy and use it to create value, rather than looking at sustainability as purely an expense. And there have been many conversations through the day today where we've spoken about climate finance, sustainability-led loans, sustainability-led bonds, and we're green bonds. And I'm hoping we can get perspectives from our panel today on how we could potentially turn that argument on its head and say, while there's a lot that needs to be done from a funding perspective, how do developing countries like India really look at unlocking value from sustainability itself? So without further ado, I'm going to start with Erik. Erik, you've worked extensively on environmental issues across the globe, and your experiences span both policy and execution. What is the role of global governance in sort of making sure that Europe and Asia work effectively together in the face of climate change and certain geopolitics and that comes into the play inadvertently, let's say?
There is definitely a role for global governance and for global cooperation. but the main decisions are made by the national leaders and by business. I mean, Prime Minister Modi has made a huge number of development decisions for India, launching different missions for green hydrogen, for electric batteries, for solar panels, all of this. And that's done without any reference to global governance. He does it because it provides green development for India. It's good for the people of India. And of course, business plays a key role. For instance, when President Trump did take America out of the Paris Agreement, not one business leader in America supported it, not one. When they all, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, all of them said, I mean, you're on the wrong path, Mr. President, and we will go green even if you do not give the order for that. So it's not like we need global governance for everything. What we do have is all the finances. We have all the technologies for the green transformation. The two main issues, in my view, one we have talked about throughout today, is political leadership. Good leadership, governance, getting the right systems. Why is Gujarat so effective in India? Because they have a dedicated leadership and they have developed systems where business can get something done. No investor from Finland or from Norway or from anyone else will go around to 17 different ministries to get a stamp everywhere. And when you have passed all the 70 ministries, you will start again because someone came up. That was the India of the past. Very little happened because it was too bureaucratic. Now a lot more is happening, and it comes down to governance. Governance in the state and in the nations and the right political decisions. That's the number one factor. And the other is we need a more people-centered approach. Look, I was quite recently in Gujarat. Adani is building the biggest solar and plant factory in the world. It's 30 gigawatt. What it is enormously impressive. It's fantastic, but it's not small and cozy. No one will want that in their backyard. If you want to get these things off, you need a very profound dialogue with the local people, and you need to make sure that quite a lot of the profit from the developments remain with the local people. In Norway, when I was in the government, we got this exactly wrong. We thought establishing wind energy in Norway was just a matter of finances and technology. And then all of a sudden people in the countryside of Norway said, oh, look, well, this may be good for the atmosphere. This may be even good for Norway, but it's not good for me. It's not good for my community, my children, my grandchildren, so I oppose you. And all of a sudden, we could not get any wind farm built in Norway because of this opposition. So we need a people-centered approach. When you want big solar or big wind or hydropower, speak to the local people, have a dialogue with them, and make sure that they get some of the benefit from the development. So I believe these are the two globally most important issues. Leadership from leaders like Prime Minister Modi, setting the right atmosphere for investment, and the other is a people-centered approach, bringing people on board in the transformation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eric. Dr. Nuama, if I could come to you now, a different part of the world, yet a leader in their own right. And we've all looked at the UAE with awe, thanks to your contributions and what the country has achieved. And now your role with the Sharjah Parliament, could you help us understand what developing countries can do best from the perspective of this tussle between sustainability versus people versus growth?
Thank you very much. I think my colleague here have said it all. What we need is a centered approach, and that is true. But let's just see how the world is going first, and then I would come back to what we've done in United Arab Emirates. Today, speaking about sustainability and sustainable development is probably a matter of the past. We really think that there are 17 goals of sustainability, and one of them is climate change. Unfortunately, today, climate change have superseded all of the other goals and impacting all the goals from health to wealth and what comes in between. So looking at that picture, in fact, is really gloomy. The world is not very healthy, particularly when we see the last 2 or 3 decades and what has been done so far. The problem basically that it is an assumption that this global warming and sustainability is local issues. Each country, each leader assumes that he would actually be dealing with it within home. And that is a problem, because the global warming is actually by nature, it's global. And we really need to have governance that are locally binding everyone, small countries, a big country. For United Arab Emirates has about 0.6% of the emissions in the world, unlike other countries. In United Arab Emirates, what we've done, not since the 1993 and 94, when the protocols of Kyoto and then Paris Agreement were drawn. The leadership in United Arab Emirates have picked up this long time ago. Basically more than 70, 80 years ago, when we started greening the desert. You find green areas in the middle of nowhere. Our father, Sheikh Zayed, has done this about 70 years ago. And then we followed. Today, we lead in the MENA region in terms of renewables. We lead in the region in terms of mangrove. We lead probably in the world in terms of financing projects that are renewable energy, green nature, through Master. Today, we no doubt have done so much for the world. And that is not enough, because the world have to do so much for itself. You cannot pollute in somewhere and dump fuel somewhere else, and then a country or a region should actually take the headache or take the burden of it. Today, the problem is more of global nature, and we really need to deal with it in a global nature. In 4 weeks in Baku, there would be the supreme authority that really need to look into where we are. We are not going right so far. And we need to fix it right. We really need to think right, because only last year we had the stocktake results. And that result revealed so much for us and should guide us. That is very important. If the carbon dioxide has increased during the last 25 years by 18%, it is not only the result of fuel and gas. It is the result of what we do as well in the construction. If we know that cement is actually participating for more than 8% in this global warming, and plastic, as we spoke today, contributing for more than 3%. This is a lot to handle, and these are man-made. And we should be looking into alternatives that could actually help us and help the world to really come over it. And we really need to think right. Enlightenment is very essential. We really need to knock the doors of youth, students, and children and make them aware of what is happening. What we see today in the weather elements is not right. We have not been seeing it for a long time, but it is the trend that we should actually be aware of. And youth should actually recognize the fact that we have done so much of pollution and we really need to make them aware of it and enlighten them of the results. But United Arab Emirates, it's a small country and has been doing so much from planting mangrove, thousands of hectares that's being planted, and other green areas, as you may well know. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nwame. I'm going to move a little bit to businesses now, sir, as Dr. Abdullah also mentioned, and would love to get your perspective, please, here. Now, we at ERM, we have a very close association with the Jindal Group, work very closely to help on decarbonization-related matters. Yet, steel and all sorts of products in the steel value chain are viewed as hard to abate. As a pioneer in the space, Jindal Steel and Power, you've been focusing on decarbonization and green energy leadership for quite a long time now. What is your take, Sanjay ji, on how you prioritize doing this despite the evident cost? And what is your vision for the steel industry in India?
Thank you. In fact, now there is evidence to show us that climate change is for real. We have seen the impact of climate change this year in Delhi. Temperature rose to 52 degrees centigrade. Where there used to be floods, there are droughts. Where there used to be drought, there are floods. We saw in Saudi Arabia, 1,300 people died because of intense heat. But these all are the inclement impact of climate change, and which everybody has to really realize, understand, and do their might to ameliorate. You mentioned that steel is a hard-to-abate sector. On the basis of my experience in the government of 36 years and in Jindal Steel for last 6 months, I can say that why the formula for greening steel is, which everybody sees in all over, which is publicized: electric arc furnace, renewable energy, green hydrogen, scrap. But it is not easily available. Scrap is not available. Electric arc furnace, I can say from the perspective of India, we are growing at a pace of 8% annually. Our GDP is growing at the rate. Our steel consumption last year grew by 14%. And out of this 14%, overall we had a production of 140 million tons, 136 million was consumed in the country. 65% goes into infrastructure and construction. And the major process of steel making in India, which is the mainstream, is blast furnace. And blast furnace is going to remain. Because the kind of growth which we want in the country in terms of infrastructure and all over, that can only come from blast furnaces. Our vision in the country is to produce 300 million tons of steel by 2030, 500 million tons by 2047. So this is going to come from primarily blast furnace. So the challenge is how to green blast furnace steel making. Right now, what we are doing at Jindal Group, on the basis of my experience in the government, again, I've worked in the steel sector for quite some time in the government. What I can say, what is doable? Electric arc furnace can produce green steel easily by the steps we have taken in Jindal Steel. Number one, green hydrogen production, we are going to start from 2025. We are going to produce around 4,500 tons of green hydrogen by 2025. That will be primarily used for in electric arc furnace. Prior to that, we have also pioneered production of synthesis gas from coal. Because the coal-based DRI, that is in terms of DRI production, the mainstream. But in production of synthesis gas, we have been a pioneer. And along with that, we are working on carbon capture. We have done some pilots on carbon capture and a host of other things. But the challenge lies in when we are going to green blast furnaces, carbon capture is going to be the model. Efficiency can be brought in by introducing predictive tech, precision tech that can enhance efficiency. But along with that, I mean, that is only short-term measure. Through that, 25 to 30% of emission can be reduced. But primarily, it's going to be on the basis of carbon capture in the blast furnace route.
Thank you, sir. Of course, last but not the least, Your Excellency, Finland holds a special place, I think, in the hearts of most Indians, and not just the brands that the country has produced that are close to us, but also the quality of life, which is integral to sustainability. Now, Finland, again, is a country that has taken commitment to a greener future much earlier than a lot of other countries around the world were thinking about it. Why was this decision taken, and how do you see this being good for business as well as for the planet?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think everything starts with education and awareness, which then create pressure for the decision makers to do something about things. In Finland, we are committed to achieving carbon neutrality already by 2035, and this target is set in our legislation in the Climate Act approved in 2019. And I think the goal is, of course, very ambitious, but still achievable. And of course, also as part of the EU, we also operate within the framework created by the European Union legislation. But it's not just the legislation, and there's also, what is also very important is the participation of industries and the whole society. Our Finnish growth is largely driven by circular economy principles and green innovations, which are supported by government policies, but also by sectoral carbon neutrality roadmaps developed by the different industry sectors themselves. Of course, we have invested a lot in green energy production, but also, for example, nuclear energy, which we consider a crucial element of a resilient energy mix. But in addition to decreasing our carbon footprint, we also want to expand our carbon handprint. And really, we want to be able to bring global developments to the awareness of Finnish companies and innovative solutions to solve the challenges of future, scale up them and create long-term partnerships and business opportunities. So I think Finnish businesses have already seen the potential in global clean transition and offer solutions in many fields like digitalization, connectivity, clean energy, electrification, energy efficiency, and circular economy. And really, what I said before, that we need really the whole society to come together, government, private businesses, individuals. Municipalities, of course, are very important here, and networks combining different circles. Coming back to the first thing, I really think that education and public awareness is what's needed first. And really, in Finland, sustainability is ingrained in every level of society. For example, in Finnish schools, climate education is an integral part of the curriculum.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We unfortunately don't have time for some follow-up questions that I was hoping to be able to pose to you. So the note that was just passed to me was a request to wind up. But I do want to thank you on behalf of the audience and on behalf of ERM and Times Now for spending this time with us. I think very clearly from a global perspective, one common theme that I heard all of you speak about is the local dialogue, the education on the ground, the understanding that we need to do going into the heartland. And Sanjay ji, I think, yes, BF is here to stay, but it's very heartening to see the pilots and the gradual move towards EF, DRI, powered by green hydrogen. So hope still for all of us, and hopefully next year when we meet, we will see further needle movement in our quest for a greener planet. Thank you very much.